shooting this film on my camera phone rather than the flip cameras I got for Christmas, which I forgot to bring out with me today. But it does take absolutely ages to upload films from the flip, so perhaps it's just as well. But I'm just thinking about pornography again, partly, as I say, in response to some stuff that To Be Serious was originally talking about, but also I think Nuclear Night, who else? Varioblast, Mel's Basket Case. There were some good discussions around that. But what I'm thinking about is to do with, well, I'm just trying to get my bead on how I feel about it, really, by comparing it to other experiences, to see how I'm kind of categorising it. And what I'm thinking of, and today I'm just thinking about it in terms of, well, it's a kind of an extension of something I wrote about a few days ago and spoke about a few days ago, to do with the kind of incorporation of it, the turning of porn into an industry. I mean, it's always been an industry. The relationship between pornography and corporate industry. And the kind of analogy I'm thinking of today is to do with punk rock music. I was quite into punk rock music in the mid to late 1970s. I was living near Manchester at the time, and I quite often used to go to Free Trade Hall and one or two other places to watch various punk bands, which is just great actually, looking back. Obviously I was a lot younger then. But one of the great things about it was in a sense it was a myth, but there was a sense in which it was owned by the dispossessed. The idea of punk, at the time at least, early days punk, was that it was made and consumed, and maker and consumer interchangeable in this, made and consumed by largely dispossessed, teenage, pretty talentless people, really. And that was the point. It was all about the energy of being a certain kind of a person. It wasn't about hierarchies of expertise and hierarchies of access to power and the means of digital reproduction or whatever. It wasn't about any of that kind of stuff. At least that's what it felt like. Whether it was really like that behind the scenes, who knows. And that's pretty much what it was like late 1976, early 1977. But that very soon changed. Of course, as soon as the record companies realised that there was a market that they're slavering for it, they couldn't, they were kind of crawling over themselves to sign up any reasonably healthy looking 4-piece band that could strap on a guitar really and jump around and didn't mind being spat at. It was a lot of really unseemly haste about the way it was incorporated into the system, if you like. And I do distinctly remember turning on the TV one day. This must have been 1978, 79 maybe by this point, and Top of the Pops was on, which was a music show on the BBC. And there was Kid Jensen, a Radio 1 DJ, introducing The Exploited. And The Exploited were a kind of third generation punk band. Just really rent-a-punks, really, just bondage trousers, Mohican haircuts, just punk by numbers stuff, really. And they would do this thing, they did the 3-minute thrash stuff, and then they went off and then somebody else came on. I don't know, Bonnie Tyler or ABBA or somebody came on, some other band, and that was it really. I just thought, geez, that's it, is it? Not only has this what felt like a revolution, not only has that revolution been compartmentalised into a 3-minute slot within this kind of variety show of music, and not only has the revolution been televised, but because it's on the BBC you have to buy a bloody licence to be able to watch it, so your revolution is completely sold back to you in that true situationist way. It was very irritating. So even though the music hadn't changed, if anything the music had improved slightly, its ownership had disappeared and it had completely gone, and all the fun had been sucked out of it. Not just the fun of it being a transgressive form that had been kind of neutered, but also, as I say, the fun of ownership had been sucked out of it, and the fun of being the author of one's own revolution. And I think a similar kind of thing is possibly the case with some pornography. I mean, certainly the 1960s, early 1970s are often flagged as a period of many revolutions, and one of those revolutions undoubtedly was a sexual revolution. And it was, you know, obviously looking back, I was quite young at the time, but looking back and looking at the literature around it, it was naive and stupid in many cases. And a lot of things that people said and did in the 1960s in regards to their sexual freedoms were really dim. But the idea was good, you know what I mean? The idea was that you could take charge of your sexuality individually or collectively, and just kind of throw off various shackles, and it not be owned by the church or by the state. It had a kind of, or you were given the autonomy back for your own sexuality and to define it as you wish. That was kind of the idea, I suppose. And some people got on board with that. I mean, people like Germaine Greer, the feminist who wrote Female Eunuch, she was completely on board with that. In fact, I think she started a porn magazine. I can't remember what it was called. It was either called Cunt or Blow, I can't remember now. But it was called something graphic, and did feature her, Germaine Greer, in a kind of very provocative shots, I think. But of course, just like, you know, the industry rushed in to grab the spoils of punk and sell it back to people who originally made it, I think the pornography industry again kind of revitalized itself a little bit after the 1960s, because it went through a bit of a dip, I think, during the 1960s, because there's so much amateur sexuality going on that they didn't need the professional stuff. But once the porn industry got it acting to gear, early in the 1970s particularly, it really got it into gear, you know what I mean? And basically, you know, took the sexual revolution away from the people who were possibly naively trying to run it, packed it between glossy pieces of paper and sold it back to them, and continue to do so, I think. You know, I think a lot of the talk around pornography now is about liberation and about freedom, and a lot of the language sounds very much like the language of the 60s, but it's not about the production of porn, and not about the autonomy and the right to own one's own sexuality and do what one will. Now it's about the right to buy a license to tune into the BBC to watch Top of the Pops, or the pornographic equivalent. Now it's about the right to have, you know, whatever those channels are, Babe Station or whatever on the TV, or to subscribe to some website that's got porn on it. It's a different kind of a right. It's being sold as the same right, but I think it's different. The revolution has been not only televised, it's been put on DVD. Lovely out here tonight. Look at those trees.